far as tips for getting ready for your preparation before the wedding, there's several things I could go over with you. Number one, and most importantly, is always arrive early. Nothing worse than showing up 5 minutes before you're supposed to take pictures. You feel flustered, you're rushed, and the pictures look rushed. Another thing that's very important as a wedding photographer is pack your own chute. Don't rely on an assistant or somebody in your office to pack your bags. I like to know where everything is. I like to know where the film is, the separate lenses are, and the camera bodies. Very important if you're in a hurry or if you're flustered and you need to get a shot, you've got to know where your camera is. Pack your own chute. Another very important thing is to know who you're going to photograph. I have a list here with me today giving me 30-minute increments of everybody who needs to be photographed. This is very important that we get all the saleable, important pictures. One thing that would be very important to me is to defoil all of my Kodak film. Today's wedding is going to offer us a lot of different lighting situations, from bright sun to shade to maybe even dusk into the night. So I've got 3 different film stocks here. I've got the VPS, which is one of my favorite films. I've got the PMC, that's the Pro 400 Monty and Clay. If you're not using it, you have to get some. And I've got black and white film. And I do have 35mm film. So not only am I defoiling the film, I'm separating it. Nothing worse than running the wrong film speed through when you're exposing for 100, you're shooting 400 or vice versa. You really feel aggravated and you can blow a good shot. So defoil the film, separate it, and make sure by even marking your film back, what's in each back, you feel much better that way. You got to be wondering what I'm doing here. Gaffer's tape has got to be a photographer's best friend. The gaffer's tape has got a special cloth feeling. It's easily removable, easily reusable, and it doesn't leave a lot of residue. I love this tape, and I always keep little strips of it taped onto the legs of my tripod. Therefore, if I need some tape in a hurry, hey, I come to this, and there's my tape right there ready to go.
You're supposed to do that, but you might want to check.
I'll check it. Thank you very much. It's whatever you want.
My name's Mimi. Enjoy the day.
Thank you, Mimi. I'll do whatever you ask, and we'll just be quiet and fun. Okay, good. We'll be there for you, whatever you need. We'll be sure and get some good pictures for you. Thank you. A real good comment I could make is, these are the people that keep you in business. If they don't like you, they're not going to invite you back here. When I have a party planner, a coordinator, or what we call a church lady, I'm her best friend. I'll do whatever she asks. Now, I noticed the bride just arrived, so a little before the wedding, I'm just going to throw the camera together and try to capture some of these moments kind of leading into the wedding. Ready, aim, fire is not my technique. It's ready, fire, aim. Too many photographers spend too much time aiming their camera. Preparation's important, but hey, let's get the shot. Let's watch what happens here. Look at each other. That's great, great, okay. Good, good. Notice that it is photojournalistically done in a way. I prompted them, I said, look at each other. Why? They're walking away. I had the back of their heads. I need to see their faces. They looked at each other. They knew Mr. Clay was there with the camera. They smiled, they laughed. It's a much more, I would say, saleable picture. Would I be in it for the sales? Who, me? We're going to go up and get a few shots of the bride in the dressing room as she's getting ready. I'm not going to overkill here. I used to go up and shoot 4 different film stocks, black and white, infrared, all these things. But you know what? They're not going to put these pictures in the album unless it's 1 or 2 really good ones. I'm going up with a 35mm. I want to remain compact. I've got the LumaQuest to give me a non-directional soft light. I'm using the PMC film and the Nikon. It's a system I'm very comfortable with. The Bantam battery clips on the bottom. I could run 10 or 12 rolls of film with this Bantam battery. This is a great wedding setup. It's great, these little tight areas, just to get these little vignettes in between the major events. Let's go up and do it. Follow me. All right, what I'm going to do, hold your veil, bring your hand right up here and right up here, just like this. And your wrist in. Good. And I'm going to pull the mirror. Put your face almost like 4 inches away. That's it. Look at me. Look at me right there. That's good. Your chin up just a dash. When I saw such a perfect mirror, I thought back to one of my favorite mirror shots where we lean the bride right in. Remember, the flash was pointed into the mirror, giving us very nice portrait lighting. Flash on camera in the dressing room. Great. Perfect. Okay. is I guess we're ready to go outside.
Are we? Is David ready?
I think David's just about ready. I'd like to do a full-length portrait of you right now while we're going.
Okay.
All right, we'll follow you out.
Help.
Here, you know how to do with the dress? Maybe just put it over her arm. I'll show you the best way. With these roses, we might be a little more delicate.
Okay.
Hold your left arm out, Heidi. And then bring it this way, and then hold your arm straight out. And then let go of it. Let go of it, and then go like this. Did you have it? I think that'll keep it from dragging. And I'll follow you.
I thought so.
Heidi, I'm going to back you up just a little bit. All right. Right there, Good. Good. Here's everybody. We'll time this. We'll put the light right out here. Just a weak little flash layering on the light. And we are ready to take a picture. Tip the flowers forward to me a little. Oh, this is the cover of Brides magazine. I can see it. Lower your flowers a little bit and tip your head this way a little. Yes. A couple of times. Eyes right here at the top of my head. Good. Big smile right there. All right. Beautiful. Again, we've got the bride under an overhang, so the light's being forced in. So we add a little bare bulb again. The Monty illuminator, or the reflector, you can see it at work here. You can't miss here. Again, the light on the face, ambient, 15th at 11. So we'll do a test at non-cord, all at one time, and keep the flash one stop less. We're ready to go. Turn your face to me, David, a little bit. Your chin up a dash. Good. Heidi, you look great. Tip your head this way. You look like it's your wedding day or something. You look so alive. 1, 2, and one more time. I got to move the light a little bit. And then we're going to come out. We're going to go into the canopy and do that picture. This is great. Now, this is beautiful. Here we go. 1, 2. I love it. Yes. And touch your cheeks. Don't mess up her hair, but just like that. His chin up. That's good. Heidi, your face here. Oh, that's it. Oh, this is the picture for Town and Country. Can you touch noses and laugh? Pretend I'm not here. Yes. A couple more times. Lean away from him a little bit. Yes, I love it. One more time. I like that one a lot. Just like that. Great. Okay. All right.
Okay. Close.
The bare bulb flash is never enough for the big groups. So that's why we put the reflector on. And that'll fill us out. We keep the flash still. Either match the f-stop or keep the flash less than the ambient. We want the pictures to look natural. Okay. Ron, step back a little, and this young man step in front of your dad a little. Open up. Right hand in your pants pocket. Yep, en moi. And your right foot forward a little, and your left foot forward a little bit. Your left hand in your pants pocket. All of you look great. Come up a little bit, Heidi, this way, your feet. That's good. Everyone looks terrific. The light hasn't changed. We'll put our reflector on here. Mom, turn your body in a little bit. Good. 1, 2. Heidi, lower your flowers and hold them with both hands. Good. Smiling. 2.5. And it'll be good. Reach over and hold your mother's hand, can you? Yeah, that's good. That's exactly what I wanted. Exactly. Perfect. Nice touch. 1, 2, and... Okay, I love the Pictrol. That's a little soft focus device. Take off the big lens, put on the Pictrol, and now we've got a romantic look for the ceremony. Faces, it's got a Tiffin soft filter, and it's got a Pictrol. This right here gives me such a beautiful, romantic feel to the whole wedding. Watch what we did with this. It's just moments before the ceremony, and I'm stealing away some of the best shots of the day, just these little vignettes. Really soft lighting, but people are really a little tense. They're at their best and their worst all at the same time. This is some of the best photography of the day. I always get a lot of shots right before they come down the aisle like this. A lot of good ones with the 35.
understand self-sacrifice. Does not provoke, thinks no evil. Does not rejoice in iniquity, but rejoice.
Normally I try to get all the aisle pictures in the back, but I'm forced down the aisle because it's so dark under the trees. Let's go do it. Ed, let me get the two of you in the house real quick. Come on in there, just hug her. Cheek to cheek, I love it. Oh, yes. Okay, cheek to cheek, oh, I love it. Good, okay. Hug your mom right here. I'm getting all mixed up. Cheek to cheek, squeeze her, yes. Okay, now it's Chris over here. There we go. Just, I love it right there. And look at me, look at me, look at me, look at me. Great. How about the two dads? Just shake hands. You did it, guys. All right, get closer, get closer. Pull him in and hug him. I can't get that great. And the two moms right there, just cheek to cheek. All right, ladies. Yes, okay. How about a gang shot of all of you, just hugging right there? Everybody just come in. The bride and groom in the center. We did it. Everybody just hug. That's all we have to do. There you go. That's it, right there. F8. And that's good. Hold them all together there, Ed. Get your face right over here. There you go. 1, 2, and one more for good luck. 2, 2.5, 2 3/4, and all right. It's time to cut the cake. 2 things to remember on the cake. Get the heads close together. Cheek to cheek, tell them. Lean them over the cake. Let's be a little more animated. Don't leave it up to the party planner. Don't leave it up to the church lady. Don't leave it up to the bride and groom. They don't cut a cake every weekend like we do at the weddings. Watch how I bring them together and get a good expression. Let's go do it. That's okay, good. Put your arm behind each other's back. This right arm behind his back. That's good. Let me get right over here. A little. That's it right there. Love it. Tip your head onto Heidi. That's it. Good. Looking at me, both of you. Look here. Put your cheeks right together there. Okay, cut one for the cake out. Good. Yeah, that's good. Now put your arm behind each other's back. Lean over the cake for me. Now hold it under your mouth. Don't eat it, but now look. Hang on, look at me. Your chin up, David. Go like this. Open your eyes. Okay, all right. That's cute. Sorry. That's a fun one. That's good. Arm behind each other's back and laughing. That's great. Great. Got it. Touch your glasses and look at each other. Oh, yeah. Great. Perfect. Okay. I'm going to go on the roof there. Everybody on this side, come more in the middle a little bit. Everyone come close. This is terrific. I'm looking for all the parents. Here we go. There's Chris and Ron. What about... Okay, good. Right there. Good. Okay, guys, Devin, right on the front row. But come on the front there. Come on each side of your grandfather. And look at here. Let's keep going. This time I want to see the back of your teeth. You're smiling so much. 1, 2, and... How about this time everybody wave like this? Just don't block any faces. And look here, David. David, look here. Hands up. Yeah, right there. And... Great, we got it. Okay. Hold them up. Here we go. 1, 2, and... You know what? Turn around and look at me this way. That's it. That's the shot. Cheek to cheek now. Come on in there. I love it right there. The car, the whole thing. One more for good luck. I love that one. Okay, hop in the car. We'll get that. Everybody wave at one time. Everybody just wave. Yeah, all right. Okay. Woo. And off they go. And they lived happily ever after, I should say. All right, I left a 40 in the bushes here. You know, I do. It's in my camera case up above. I'll get you one.
Okay.
Are you friends with the bride or the groom?
Both.
Okay.
You did a great job.
Thank you. Thank you. It was a lot of fun. I had a good time. So I'll get you one. And also,
From around here?
I live 10 minutes from here.
Oh, really?
So, you know, my cards are all the way in my car, but before you leave, I'll get you one.
All right.
Thank you very much.
You do like everything.
Everything.
Whatever.
Weddings, portraits. I almost got a helicopter over for today, but we didn't get it. He kept landing and taking off. I went over and said, how about one more shot? And he couldn't do it. All right. Thank you.
Yeah.
All righty. So, the key here is keep a smile on your face. Always make it look like everything's going fine. You know, there was not even any film in the camera for any of those pictures. But the thing was, nobody knew it, and I was having fun. I looked like I was enjoying it, and they're not going to know the difference. Just kidding. You know there was film in there, April Fool's. Let's pack it up.
No film in the camera, eh?
You know, that's the first time I've seen that piece, had you?
I know.
Wow.
I didn't show him the piece in advance, so he hadn't seen the ending to that. Okay, Clay, now you do some things. That was an all-outdoor wedding. One of the things that I know you do a lot of is candid lighting where you've got multiple lights in the room. Did you bring any photos like that?
I'm really into ballroom lighting. I don't think a single little flash can light a whole room properly. I do use the 400 film, as we mentioned. But let me just flip into this, some of these right away into the ballroom lighting.
This is the same album that Lisa had, the Albums Inc. Renaissance? Yeah.
I love
I'm
this
seeing
book.
more
It's very easy to put together. It doesn't take long at all.
Yeah.
This photograph here, which luckily was selected for Epcot Center, and I think it's hanging in the boardroom at Kodak, it's got 10 room lights going off every time we take a picture. A lot of people ask me, how can you do that? It's kind of like being a MacGyver.
Right.
I take a lot of little flashes with me. This is just a ballroom light that can clamp on to anywhere you want to give you room lights. Now, something very important, I think, about room lighting is not to put a bare bulb up, because a bare bulb is going to light the ceiling, the walls, and everything you don't want. The thing that I like about this, it's concentrating the light into the dance floor. It gives me like a beam of light. And if you get it in the picture, it looks like MTV. It looks like a Joe Craig shot because it's got that starburst.
We want to get some questions, but real quick, tell me about this, because I think this is a great idea.
Very excited. I got this idea from Gary Fong. This is a little mini album. I take a wedding album and just flip it together. I copy it on my own copy stand. Now the bride and groom can take their wedding album to the beach. They can take it to the pool, and they can say, hey, look who did our pictures. And, of course, in the background, it's got our name in there. It's really a terrific piece. It's a great promotion there. That's the complete wedding album laid out. This is it. This is a big business card. Every month, I spend probably about $500 on laminates. This is the best source of advertising we've got at our studio. We take the decoration pictures, laminate them with our name, phone, fax, and here we've got it, big business cards. The caterers love it. The hotels love it.
Okay, real quickly, do we have any questions? Tom from Omaha? Tom? Todd,
Hi.
I'm sorry.
Yes, my name's Todd. Hi, Clay. Hi, Ed. How are you doing?
Hey, Todd, how's it going?
Great. I'd first like to say hi to my business partner, Arlen Little, who's watching your conference in Houston while I'm watching it here in Omaha.
Oh, great.
And I have a two-part question. First, how much of your sales do you think comes from the shots you take during the actual ceremony versus all the other shots you take before and after the pictures?
Oh, that's
I mean,
good.
before and after the ceremony.
A very good question. A lot of photographers get caught up shooting too many pictures of the bride and groom. Most of the pictures that sell in our studio are family pictures or pictures that we set up, okay? So really, don't go for too much of the bride and groom. The ceremony, 1 or 2 shots in the whole album, Ed. Yeah, good question.
Great.
Do we have another
the second
question?
part of the question is, how do you keep these clients who aren't professional models, relaxed and continually interested in making photos for, 2 or 3 hours and before and after also?
Well, the time goes by very fast. We do 2 hours before the wedding if we can get it, and it's usually not a problem. We always had a joke in our studio. They used to say, Monty, how come you never get an ugly bride? And they'd say, well, when Monty got, he would let me photograph her, and I loved it, That's a bad joke. But you know what? I think every bride's beautiful on her wedding day. You can see it's a fun day for everybody. And I agree, you see people at their best and their worst all at one moment. And you really have to be right on target. Pre-focus, preset. I think that's one of my biggest keys. My camera is always ready to go. Ready, fire, aim. It's not ready to aim, fire. It's just ready to shoot. And that's how we always get the spontaneity.
We've got another caller. Sue, I think it's from Omaha. Sue?
Hello?
Long Island, I'm sorry.
Long Island. Great
Hello?
photographers up
Hello,
in Long Island.
Sue.
Hi, how you doing? How do you stay so energetic week after week?
Wow, I don't know. Every weekend when I'm going to a wedding, I pump myself up like a bicycle tire. And I just really get into the groove. When I get to the wedding, I never relax. I've seen too many photographers sit in big, easy chairs in the back room and get comfortable. I'm always up, always waiting for the next shot. If you look at a professional football team that I admire, is the San Francisco 49ers. They go out to every game with 15 plays in their back pocket. So we have a punch list? Yes. We have 15 shots we're going to start with every time. That way I'm not nervous. I go in, I'm anxious to get started. I know what the first shot, the second shot, I know what they're going to be. And hey, if something happens over my shoulder, I'm ready for it. So you got to be happy and ready to go like that.
Terrific.
One of my biggest aftermarket things too, Ed, I got to show this up.
Yep.
Hand-printed black and whites. My lab, American Color, is also printing black and white. They did all my photographs here. But the black and whites like this is a big aftermarket item. These are gorgeous. People love them.
We've got Mark from Cleveland. Mark?
I was wondering, are you still doing the backgrounds and studio lighting at the churches, or are you kind of going more towards more of the just candid things with 35 or what?
Well, I've noticed, that's a good question, and I can repeat it. Are we doing the studio lighting? Every time we bring a background in our studio setup, our sales are up. We sell tons of extra pictures for frames with the studio background. So I would say take the studio things, get that done, but for all the full lengths and the formals, let's go with the church as a background, like that. Can I show one picture too, Ed? I mean, I don't know how we're running out of time.
Go ahead.
Too many photographers put the people on the church altar. And you know what we're doing that I like is we're bringing the people in front of the altar, way at the beginning of the church. Now the background is just that. It is the background. And the people, they glow and shine out in front. This is a 2-second exposure. 2 seconds, handheld. No, we use the tripod. Just kidding there. I do like to have fun. We have to keep it light. One other thing that happened real quick. Here's the photojournalism. I love photojournalism, Dennis. I'm not going to knock it. I love it. I mix it in every wedding. But I have to do pose portraits. These huggy kissies. The photojournalists will say, you set up every single one of those pictures. But you know what? These pictures are always favorites. The people go crazy. They don't even remember you taking these. They happen so fast. And look at the range of the film. The PMC film has the outdoor, the indoor, and the chandeliers, all perfect exposure.
I think we may have one more question. I think it was Mark from Sacramento. Is that correct?
That's Mike.
Mike. Sorry, Mike.
Hi, Ed. Hey, Clay. I had a question because I also use the Q flash. You use the open bulb an awful lot on the outside?
Great question. I've modified my Q flash to have this little bare bulb look to it. And I love this because...
This is great. This is that gaff tape, right?
This is gaffer's tape, my favorite thing. I took it off my tripod. What this does, I use a lot of extreme wide-angle lenses. I use a 50, a 40, and a 30. I'm really hot on the 30. This light will spread the whole room, and it takes away the deer in the headlight look. It's a very soft look.
Listen, we ran into your assistant out at PP of A, and we did a quick tip with him. So we're going to run that, but he'll be back at the end of the show to take some more questions. So let's see what your assistant has.
All right,
to
let's
say.
see what he's doing,
Roll it.
too. I want to see this.
Hi, I'm Clay Blackmore's assistant. My name is Monty. I want to show you a few things he taught me about posing brides and grooms real fast. So let's bring the couple in here close. We're going to lean their bodies together and start out with just a full face picture of the two of them. I'm going to watch the camera monitor and see what we're doing. Can you bring them up and a little higher on the screen? And it's too much. Go back a little bit so I can see a little bit more base. Now, I want to know exactly what's happening, so I'm looking at the monitor. Rick, would you bring your face forward just a little bit? Bring your face out of her shadow. Wendy, turn your face to the left a tiny bit, your chin down, and you whoop too much, and your eyes right into the lens. And that's the first picture, just like that. Let's change it real quick by turning her face and her body a little bit so we get the 2/3 view of her face. We'll bring his profile right over her face. And I'll come back, and I'm going to tip my camera to raise his face. And Rick, tip the top of your head to your left. That's it. That's it. Stretching his chin out. We've done this before, so that's great. That's another pose. Very simple. Let's bring your hand up to her. No, keep your face right there. Let's bring this one hand up to her chin, and your hand right there. There's another picture just like that. And tip your head back this way just a tiny bit. And for another picture, if you want to show both their hands, Rick, let me have your other hand right here. We're going to lay her cheek on his hand, put his profile right over her face, touch her hand to his, and let's tilt the camera this time and just bring him over. Fine. Wendy, turn your face to the left just a little bit. Let your eyes look down. Let your fingers go up. Just a light touch of a smile. Maybe look at the camera. Maybe look at the camera. And how about, can you give me a wink? Whoa, okay. Fun pictures. How about giving her a bite on the cheek right there? Yes, woo! Okay, 1 minute, 4 or 5 pictures, and that's what Clay taught me.
Those are magnificent. Now, I'm in awe. I've never seen anything like that. Is this something that you do for clients?
This is just a really different concept we did for something we call Designer Showcase. It's sort of a marketing thing that we do. Beautiful mansion. We were filling up 95 feet of wall space. And to do it, to get that spot, to be assigned that spot, we had to come up with something really different. So I love to always make the connection of art and photography. Sure. And so what I did, my thought was I'll start with a photograph, and then I'll find a painter to complete the image. And this is what he was doing. This one's a little bit different because he actually took the same concept that I had and brought us into like an afterthought of it. So it's very different. And just to get people thinking and seeing photography in a whole different light.
So this isn't a product then that you offer to your clients?
We offer it, but it's very high priced because to work with the painter and of course all the time involved. It's more as a concept thing.
Yeah, it's a very powerful, it makes a very powerful connection, as you say, between photography and art. And
you know, the thing we always forget is when we're photographing the client, that's an excellent sales time. Because what they're looking at then is all these beautiful pieces on the wall behind them. And they're huge, these are 7-foot squares.
Sure.
So they kind of get the message that this is the right thing to do, or at least an acceptable thing to do. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So they were fun to put together.
Is that a, yeah.
No, that's actually done on my property. She's in a boat, and she's actually sound asleep. Sound asleep. When she, I brought her out there with her son, and the son started to act up a little bit and got fussy. So I said to my wife, Jill, I said, why don't you just take him for a minute? I put her in that boat, and I had beautiful music playing, and the wind blows this boat back and forth across there. In about 5 minutes, she's sound asleep.
Incredible.
So
incredible. This is your lighting.
Yeah.
Those are huge.
I like a lot of light. The reason I use these are the 4 by 6 foot chimeras. The reason we use these is that I like to create a wall of light very similar to what you would use outdoors.
Sure.
I also like to have these about 10 feet away from the subject.
Right.
And the reason for that is the depth of field from that light then. It throws a light that's f8 from here all the way over to here.
Right, sure.
And so I give children permission to move while I'm photographing. And they can actually move across that scene. And because I use backgrounds that do not have hot spots in them, that child can walk all the way across, and even as they're moving, I'm photographing, just like we would outdoors. Yeah.
Sure. So your backgrounds do not have hot spots. So that
I shoot through a neutral density vignetter that deepens the edges, and so it gives that feeling, that same feeling as the background is lit. But it can be very spontaneous then.
Now, do you use these as a bank, as a single key bank, or do you together, or want to fill? Or?
I actually do them as a V, sort of a big, huge wraparound light, so the subject can move, and it always is beautiful light, even on the broad side. They could turn away from it. So it's the kind of thing you set up and really don't fuss with much during a scene because it's wrapping around them so much. Then I'll have a reflector, a couple of 4 by 8 reflector boards on the other side, and that bounces enough light back in. And then one large light up in the ceiling, which is with baffles on it, and that's your separation light. And that simple arrangement gets us through about 80% of what we photograph.
Incredible, incredible. Now, you've got a number of props here. How do these relate to the
Psychographics?
Psychographics, right. How do they fit
Everything fits together. Remember, everything is for a reason, every line, color, and shape. And so since I photograph primarily women, I'll use pieces that have beautiful S-curves in them.
Sure.
The one thing that I always do when I design a portrait is start with a line. And when we go outdoors later on, you're going to see the first thing I'm going to look for is a line. And so you take a prop that has a line that goes like this, you simply repeat that shape with the pose of your woman, and now by simple repetition you made an emphasis that graceful line, and psychographically that line represents freedom, represents love, represents femininity. You're just sending the right signals right away. So the pieces that have a more rectangular shape, like the desk and like this chair over here, that would be more for photographing men. It has a more masculine orientation because men are more angular. And the square and the rectangle represents solidity and strength. And the triangle, when it's going up like this, is actually a threatening shape. So you have to be very careful how you use that. But a triangle going down
is more unifying and more strong. It's very interesting how all the shapes fit together.
And I guess that would be an example of
with the circles, the several repeated circles. Then again, for something soft and graceful, like we did with the portrait of the young girl over here. This weighs 800 pounds, so I have to get my wife to move it out. I hardly ever use it because it weighs so doggone much, but it's very pretty. You know, I'll often create very different effects with the background. You can make a background look like 5 different backgrounds by using a long lens, and this is how we did this girl. I think I used the 180. I moved her way far away from the background, and that forces you to put a separate light onto the background. And then I just threw it so far out of focus and just used one little section of it, and then this little prop in the foreground, and if you moved her 10 feet farther back towards that background, it would have a whole totally different feel.
Sure.
So it's a good creative tool.
Incredible. Neat. Let's go into your consultation room. Let's see that. David, I walked into your studio, and it's real obvious to anyone that studio design's a real big part of what you've done here. Tell me a little bit about it.
Well, I wish you could have been here about 10 or 15 years ago to see the first version of this studio. But yeah, I've remodeled almost 5 different times. And as I learned more and more about a thing called psychographics, I began to fine-tune the look of my studio to suit my client. Because initially I just did, well, first of all, I did what I could afford. But then I began to do exactly what I thought the client would like instead of what I liked. And this is what happened. When you walked in that entryway, everything that you see in there is designed for my model client, which is a woman between about 35 and 50 years old, an upscale person, meaning a person that fairly well-to-do, that appreciates finer things. So the colors, the shapes, everything in there is meant to say, this is what I like, this is what I like.
You said women, it's designed for women between 35 and 52. Why that segment?
That pretty much is what we figured out is the main client that has the orders that we like to produce.
Sure.
So we have just done it by paperwork and charting.
How long have you been a photographer?
Oh gosh, I've been doing this since my 23rd year.
Okay, so you've got enough history to know where the money's coming from.
Yeah,
and who the buyer is.
The interesting thing is, I starved. I didn't begin successful. I ended up sleeping in a tent in the park for $1 a night. So I had to learn, and the realization of it all came to me one day when a client came up to me. I was in this room back here, not looking like this. It looked pretty bad at that point. And this guy looked at me and he said, "You are the worst salesman I've ever seen in my life. You couldn't sell anything to anybody." And he left. He got up and left. And I was in shock. But I realized at that point that photography was okay. My photography was good. But that didn't make the difference. I had to learn how to communicate with people. These were human beings walking into my studio. And somehow I just thought if they liked my pictures, they'd ask for big ones. And it didn't happen that way at all. Not at all.
You know, you mentioned the client told you were the worst salesperson.
Right.
And I think a lot of people think of sales, when we think of sales, we think of car salesmen and that kind of thing. I've got a feeling that's not what you're talking about here.
Not at all.
So give me an idea of what you're really talking about.
I do think much differently than most people do. To me, this is my passion as well as my profession, and it's based on my values about the things that I most deeply are concerned about in life. If you noticed, when you walked in around the side of the building, my main advertising sign, which faces Macy's, faces the busy downtown corner, says love one another. It doesn't say anything else but love one another. I want people to realize that what I'm trying to do here is not produce a flat piece of paper that they can put on their wall. That's not what they're buying here. What they're buying is the realization of a feeling that perhaps I have brought to the surface, that I have made them realize is important in their life, and then this photograph simply symbolizes that feeling. And so the whole sales process, if you call it a process here, is just getting to know people, getting to get under their skin, getting them to tell me what is really important in life. And if they can't do that, perhaps my communication skill with them, getting them to bring it to the surface just by questioning process, by interviewing them. Eventually, we find out a need that can be met, and we meet it with the picture.
Sure. Getting back to the design now. So the design is part of the design of the studio is part of the sales process.
That's right.
And
That's right.
you mentioned the sign in the window. Give me some other examples of how the design helps you with the sale and.
At one point in time, I learned a wonderful system called Psychographics. And Psychographics is the study of the psychological response of color, shape, symbol, texture on both men and women, on the subconscious mind. It's fascinating stuff. Corporations use this, and we don't even notice that they're using it. Every color that they choose, every shape that they choose, is really designed to give us a reaction, a response. And so when I designed the studio, I designed the shapes. For instance, the chairs that we're sitting in are round. They're an upscale color. They're a soft color. They have gray colors in them rather than very, very bright colors. That is because they're very, very welcoming. It's like this big open arms that say, sit down here, relax, you're welcome here. Even the shape of this table and the placement of these flowers. If you look at it from a distance, you notice that this is the shape of a heart. It's a subliminal message.
Sure.
And the red flowers in the middle, when they look at it from the other room, it actually draws them in. Because red is the color that symbolizes to a woman intimacy and warmth. And so I use that not only in the studio design, but also then in the design of the photography. Because it's one thing we forget about, that art is nothing more than a collection of symbols arranged in a way as to evoke a feeling or a response. So the whole thing fits together in this way.
Sure.
The client will come in, and I'll sit down and talk to them not about photography, but about their life. I ask them questions like, where were you born? Just out of curiosity, I say, where were you born? Were you born here? And they say, yes or no. And through a series of questions, begin to find out things that are really important to them. And there's an art form to that, to getting to just reach people on a very personal level. But it's something that I spent years studying. And outside of the photography industry, I take tons of other seminars to teach me how to reach people. Once you learn how to do that, you learn to evoke feeling. And once you can touch on feeling, then you can design a photograph that symbolizes that feeling. Now think of the difference. Instead of just creating a photograph of something that you like, or your idea of a person, if instead that photograph symbolizes a deep need or a deep satisfaction to somebody else, when they see that, they want that feeling to continue. And so that's why they purchase the images, and that's why we sell the larger images.
I understand. Okay. How about your philosophy with respect to the photography industry?
Well, my whole philosophy in reaching people is that love can build a bridge. That it really is something that you should first, with a client, seek to understand them first, then be understood. That is the underlying thing of my whole philosophy. If a sales process is about 80 or 90% emotional gratification, and by that I mean just making them feel good, affirming who they are, teaching them what's beautiful in their life, and just making them leave this place feeling a little bit better about what they stand for and what they live for, if I can do that, I've done my goal. And then 10% of that sales process is called rational justification. And that's simply when you explain to them why it is that wall portraits and canvas portraits and these size and this style, why it accomplishes the goal that we want. You can do those two things, excite the heart, and then explain artistically why art works this way. You're in control. And those people are very stimulated, and they literally tell me what they want. I don't have to tell them what to get. It's different. But the conversion process is remarkable. People will come in for, the first thing they say, I'm no different than anybody else. The first thing they say, they walk in, they say, I don't want one of these big ones. I mean, it's just like everyone else. And I say, well, don't you worry. Don't you worry. I want you to get exactly what you want. The thing is, when they're done, what they want is that. And so I just need a warm body to sit in that chair and converse with me. And right now I'm doing all the talking, right? But in a real consultation, I do all the listening.
Sure.
And that is the real art form, just to get them to open up, and especially with a woman. It's amazing how a woman will respond to someone that just sincerely now listens to them. They tell you exactly what they want.
Your portraits are all, to me, very emotional and very personal. And is that a reflection of your design exclusively, or is it a matter of a process that you develop with the client to find out what it is that really they're seeking?
Yeah, it's exactly that. In the process of that conversation, I'll ask questions about just informational questions, really, but I'm looking for something that has meaning in it. Now, for instance, the portrait that hangs behind us on the wall of the little boy. Well, some people might look at that and think, well, gee, why is that, done exactly that way? Why is that car in the background? Well, there's a story behind that. The father who came in for the consultation, I rarely get to talk with the father. I mean, it's a very interesting process. When the father came in, the first thing he said to me was, you photographed my daughter in the past, and I don't really want to spend that same kind of money. She was a little girl, and it was very cute what you did, etc. But I kind of just want something real simple for my son. And what I knew he was really saying was, I don't really feel, the importance of this image kind of the way I did with the little girl.
Right.
And so I began to look for some reason to put meaning into that. And we started off guy talk. He drove a truck and I drove a truck. I said, well, we're truck guys. And, we were talking about automobiles. And the thing it bridged to was, he said, you know what, I run a business that was started by my grandfather. And the one thing that my grandfather gave to me as a gift was a 1929 Packard. It was his car. And all of a sudden it clicked in my mind the importance of all of this. And I thought, heritage. This is very important. He's running a business that his grandfather started. Then I asked him, I said, did your son ever get to meet your grandfather? He said, no, never did. And I said, wouldn't it be wonderful if we could introduce him to him and the importance of what he did and was? He thought, and he was real curious about that. I said, let's use the Packard as the bridge. Let that Packard represent your grandfather and everything that he stood for. And let's just talk about that. Let's just talk to your son about that. Well, we did the whole session that way with that car in the background. And when those images came up and we played them in here to the music, it was beautiful. It was like Grandpa was back. And so it was no problem. Large images, 2 large images were called for right away. And it was because there was meaning built into this. And that's the whole process. The whole thing is just finding something to fall in love with and then portraying it. Because all this is a symbol of that good feeling. That's all it is.
How about some of the other?
Well, the little ladies behind, the mother and the child behind us. A very similar story. As I sat down here and talked to that mom, she was a marine biologist. And so we were keying in. I was searching for things that would be meaningful. So it's not just a portrait, but it's a story. It's an unfolding. And so the mom said to me, well, I love the ocean. I love being near the sea, so let's do that. So we planned that. And while we were out there, as soon as we got there, the wind was blowing furious. The sort of fuzzy part in the bottom of that picture is nothing but blowing sand. The little child was aching because the ears hurt and the sand is stinging her. Immediately she starts to cry. And the mother came to me and she said, oh, forget it.
None of us have ever had sessions like this.
Ever.
No.
But the mother went right to me. She'd hold her hand up and said, oh, let's forget it. It's a wash. And I said, now wait. Because I remembered what she talked to me about during our interview. And during that interview, I asked her, just out of curiosity, about her mom. All right, if she was scientific, because is that where she got it? And it sort of hit on her, and she said, my mom wasn't around for me a whole lot. It's kind of sad. And so I changed the topic right away. But all of a sudden, I realized that that's what this picture was going to mean to this child. And so I said to her, if your child was crying at home, what would you do? And she said, I would hold her, I would rock her, and I would sing to her. Then I just said, hold her, rock her, sing to her. So the wind is blowing, the child is crying, we're all freezing to death, and there's mom holding this child, rocking her and singing to her, and it made the most beautiful portrayal of what her life really was. The most important thing was that that child now, when she's old enough to have a child, will have an image that she can look at and say, that's what being mom is. Right. See, so I love this profession because I get to be the preacher as well as the illustrator. And people leave with something that they didn't think they were going to get. And so they'll spend their sums of money, and then they turn around and they say, thank you. Thank you very much. That's the goal.
Can you elaborate any more on the psychographics? Give us any quick, I know it's a very complicated process, but maybe a few key things, a few key tools maybe that the audience could begin to utilize.
You bet. Psychographics, fascinating science. What that means basically is that there, for every emotion that you feel, there is a way to symbolically represent that. Now it is different for people, for men and for women, for instance, but there's a whole list of colors and lines and shapes that have symbolic meanings. For instance, the portrait of the little girl with her horse that's just right behind you. The beautiful soft line, which is actually from that swayback horse, means gracefulness, gentleness. The fact that all of the textures are very, very small in that there aren't large black limbs sprouting up someplace, means something. It means very, very delicate, very fragile. The fact that the sky is blue and that she's wearing blue instead of a pink or a yellow means that it's a very thoughtful, very almost a melancholy mood. And if you look at that piece, all of those things work together to create a very strong impression. Had the sky been pink, had her dress been white, had something else been in there, those are not supportive elements for that feeling. Also, had I done her with big smiles on her face, in setting up a very almost melancholy mood, that wouldn't have fit either. So see, you just try and put all the symbols together. The thing we forget is that when we point that camera, we are responsible for absolutely everything within that viewfinder. Almost like it was a blank canvas, and you're inserting things in there. So if there's a large black trunk sticking out someplace, that better be for a reason. That better be a supportive element. So this is what I teach, to try and unify, to try and simplify, and just use only those elements, almost like putting fine musicians on a stage when you're singing. You could go up there all by yourself, but if you have this wonderful supporting cast behind you, boy, you sound good.
Is there a good resource material for psychographics? If I wanted to just to get started and learn something about it, are there any books or
I learned this in an $11,000 course that I took. It's sort of a commercial, but I have my own set of materials that teach that, so I do have that. But you can find that around. You know, I listen to artists talk, and it's very interesting when they're talking and they're saying things like, describing their own work, saying, you know, the mood that I wanted here was very fragile, very delicate, and that's why I used this line over here. You see, because all of this stuff doesn't need to be learned. It's actually, it's a built-in response. We all have it. It's just that we haven't identified it. We haven't keyed into it yet. We look at art and we say, gee, I love that piece. And you ask the person why, and they don't really know why.
Why,
It's because they're responding to all those symbols.
I see.
Yeah.
Sure. Let's get back into a little bit of the process of what happens with a client. We've talked a bit about the consultation, but the phone rings is an example. And this probably combines your philosophy, the psychographics, and everything else. But the phone rings, and what are you trying to achieve from that phone call?
All right. Natural that when the phone rings, what you have is the scenario of client and photographer. And it's a sales situation, and so it's a tennis match. Hit the ball, hit it back, try and scoot it by the other guy. You know, try and score a point. All right, it's just natural. I try and get beyond that as fast as I can, and you do that by trying to reach that human being on the other end. You don't realize how powerful the sound of a voice is. That only 9% of your effectiveness comes from the words that you say, and all the rest comes from how you say those words. So I really pay a lot of attention to that human being on the other end, and I try and find out, why did you call?
Right.
And what's really important here? It's not easy to do over the phone.
Right.
It isn't. But what I can do is entice them into the studio. And so I paint a lot of word pictures. Very powerful tool in the sales business. Word pictures. What I'll do is this. If I ask them the question, well, who will the subject be? You know, and they might say, well, it's my little girl. Then I would immediately key in my mind to a picture that I've taken of a little girl. And I'd say, you know, what I'm looking at right now is this image of this little child, this most delicate little angel, standing out in a wildflower field at sunset. Light just skimming through the foliage, just caressing the top of it, little light on the edge of her hair. And this child isn't paying a lick of attention to me. She saw some birds flying. She's looking up to her right and just watching these birds fly away. That's the kind of imagery that I love to do. But, you know I can't describe it to you on the phone. I would love for you to come in and walk through my gallery, because I don't shoot with a formula. I don't. My only formula is what you love. And I need to talk to you about that. I need to find out from you exactly the things that you respond to. So the idea, bring people in for a consultation, walk them through the gallery, but the real key part is just talking, caring about that person. And that's, you build trust doing that. If you can accomplish that, if you can walk over that bridge and meet halfway and say, you know, I trust you, then you're not selling anymore. Then you're really just helping. You're meeting a need. Marketing to me is finding a hurt and making it go away.
Right.
If you do that, wow, people will pay you anything because they just want to feel better.
Okay, the client comes in, and you greet them, I assume, and come in this room. Walk me through another consultation. We're really almost done two, but walk me through another one.
All right, okay. The first thing I would do is I would have them walk around the room, and it's very important the way that we have set up this room.
Okay.
That there be a response to the way that these pictures are placed in there.
Okay.
And I would walk them around. I would just say, well, you know, take a little stroll through here and tell me the picture that you like the most, and then tell me the picture you like the least. Okay, and I'll be back in a minute or two. And I give them a couple minutes to stroll around. Well, the beautiful soft music is playing, nice fragrances, there's nice soft textures around. We're letting all five senses affect this person as they walk through here. Now, the room is set up a certain way. If you notice that I will group low-key pictures in one area of the studio, high-key pictures in another area of the studio, scene pictures that have a lot of space around them in one area, closer up pictures in another area. The reason for this is that I don't want to confuse people. I also want them to go to the area that they love the most. And so you never put a high key versus a low key right next to each other. The reason for it, they may love the high key and hate the low key. Therefore, you just cut your response in half. Half. It's like going into a restaurant and smelling the scampi, but you hate the smell of the liver cooking over there, and so you don't want to mix the two together. So I concentrate the response, and I've actually laid out my studio that way. Then they go to their favorite area, you see, and even the soft focus pictures are in one area, the sharp pictures are in another area. I said, gee, what was your favorite one? And I'll go over and they say, oh, I love that one over there. What did you love about it? You know, and I always tell them, that's the one everybody loves, because, you know, they like to feel smart. They like to feel like they're just like everybody else.
Reinforcing.
And then I'll just say, well, you know, the reason that that one looks the way it does is because of the time of day that we worked, or perhaps the clothing, perhaps the color harmony. And I look for anything I can to give them the Art 101 lecture. Most people, when they come into a studio, are not art-oriented. They just like the look and the feel of this stuff. And so I educate them as we go, and it builds confidence to people. It really, truly does. So an important part of this is that we establish ourselves as the doctor, as the trusted one. And your clothing, what you wear, this is much more casual than what I would wear, you know, for a client. I mean, in fact, I'll even bring a separate set of clothes. If I'm going to be talking to a man that day and a woman later on, I'll change clothes.
Is that right?
I'll have different clothes, because again, the psychographics. Blue represents authority, soft white represents gentleness, so I'll dress for the feeling that I want to evoke. But anyway, I'll walk that client through the pictures, tell them the stories, and then we'll sit down and we'll begin to talk. And for instance, I might just ask you, Ed, when was the last time you had your portrait done?
Sure, okay.
When was the last time you had your portrait done?
It's 2 years ago.
2 years ago. Okay, who did your portrait then?
Actually, my wife took that portrait.
Oh, really? Really?
I'm going to be a difficult client.
Yeah, I think so. When you were growing up, did you guys have a lot of pictures then?
No.
No. I see, neither did I. And my dad was on the road all the time. I love my dad. I still do. Missed him terribly. The great thing I remember are those reunions. There's a picture in my mind, stuck in my mind, of my father. And he's like this. He would kneel down on the floor after he got home, after being gone for a week, and I would run into his arms. If I had a picture like that, if I had a picture like that, I would give any amount of money for it. Do you have any pictures like that stuck in your mind of your parents or what you did when you were young? Was your dad around a lot?
Yeah. We sailed.
You did?
Yeah. That's probably
and
my
you still
fondest
sail.
memories. Yeah, and I
so
still
this
sail.
is a gift he gave you. He
Yeah.
taught you to love that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Did you ever go sailing with him as a?
Oh yeah,
an adult?
we used to take off after work. My mother would drive me downtown to his office, and we'd take off and go down to the bay. And go sailing. We used to go night sailing all the time.
Oh, you're kidding?
Yeah.
How cool! Now, have you ever? Now, do you have children?
Yes.
Yeah.
Right,
And do you have a son?
No, I don't have a son. No, I don't.
Well, neither do I. Ed, I tried 3 times, picked out the boys' names, but never got to use them. But see what a wonderful thing. You imagine that? And that you are like that to your daughter. You take her out night sailing, put that passion in her. See, this is what I want to put on film, is something really, really magnificently beautiful about your life that you want to give to her. So that this portrait is not just a picture of what you look like, but when she's an adult, and she's going to have children, she can look at this and say, that was my dad. That was my dad. This is what he did for me. And she's going to tell about you to her child. Something important. That's what I want to put on film. And through this questioning process,
That's amazing how you got to that. That really is.
Yeah, and it's really not, it's not hard. It's a matter of really wanting to understand the human, really caring. Telling yourself, and this is hard with some people, it's really hard, to say to yourself, this is the most fascinating human being I've ever met. I'm going to find out everything I can. In the next half hour, I'm going to find out everything I can. And you listen. And just your body language, you're leaning forward, and you're paying attention to them as well. You know, you can find out how to reach a human being simply by the signals they give you. You know, the very comfortable, confident way that you sit, okay, tells me, and I know you're the entrepreneur, I know that your ideas are most important to you. Your ideas. And so I would treat you in a way that make it sound that whole design of that whole picture would be your idea. That would make you feel very comfortable. You would probably feel very uncomfortable if I led you through that process in a way that made you feel trapped. You'd want out of there. You'd rebel. You would fight against it. See, so knowing personalities, knowing personality types, and reading the signals, you can do that. And it's something we need to learn. Just so we can reach people. Simply so we can give them that gift of, hey, you're an important person. I'm glad you're here. I care about you. Simple, simple message. But to do it where they believe you, where they really trust you, that's an art form. You can't fake it. You can't fake it.
If you had